Welcome to VPG's Virtual Water Cooler Chat Podcast, a platform that features professionals across a variety of industries and promotes growth mindset principles with a central pillar of championing the achievements of women. Our conversations explore a wide spectrum of backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives, creating a vibrant mosaic that enriches our collective understanding and strengthens our commitment to growth and empowerment.
Today, Shenique Reid, a dedicated case manager in the healthcare field and VPG litigation and communications specialist, is speaking with Dina Blikshteyn, a partner at Haynes and Boone, LLP. Dina co-chairs the firm's artificial intelligence practice and specializes in patent prosecution, post-grant proceedings, and providing legal opinions on patent infringement and validity. Dina is highly regarded for her insights into AI and machine learning, and prior to her legal career, she developed high-frequency trading systems for financial markets, giving her a unique perspective on the intersection of law, technology, and business. Let's get started.
Okay. Good morning, Dina. My name is Shenique. I work with Ashley at VPG as a communication specialist and a litigation assistant. I was introduced to Ashley through a friend, a mutual friend. So that's how I got started. So I would just like to ask you, how did you meet Ashley and get introduced to the virtual water cooler chat?
I met Ashley through my coworker at Haynes and Boone, and she knows quite a few folks at Haynes and Boone as well. And somehow we started chatting, and a few years later, here we are.
That is good. Have you done any other virtual water cooler chats before with us? Or I know we have other platforms as well.
So I've done a few chats for the Femtech Lounge, but this is my first water cooler chat.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you. Today, I just have a few questions for you. I know that you have a background in finance as well as now you are an attorney. So I just had a few questions that would merge the two, finance, artificial intelligence, and your current work. So the first question I would like to ask you is, with your unique background situated between the intersection of law, technology, and finance, how have you seen AI challenge traditional legal frameworks? And what is the most surprising shift that you have witnessed?
AI itself has been challenging for a while, right? AI is not new. It's been around since 1950s. I think when people start talking about AI, it's all about generative AI. So that's ChatGPT that came around in November of 2023, right? So that's what made AI really popular and also accessible to everyone else. And that has started challenging everything, right? It's not just the legal work, it's also the finance and healthcare and many other technologies. Because with Gen AI, you can really make the work faster and easier, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of pitfalls that are going on. And also on the legislative side, the states and the federal government are trying to regulate it, but at the same time, they don't want to over-regulate it because that would stifle the innovation. So the way I look at it, it's like a new toy that people and companies are playing with. And at the same time, it's something that makes everyone's work easier, or at least has potential to do so.
I do believe so too. I do think that it's improving our work, but it can be a little scary at times not knowing how much control we have over this technology.
You have more control than you think. The way I look at it, it's like garbage in, garbage out, right? If your prompts are good and you actually know what you want the system to do, your output would be fairly good. It will never be the final product, but it's something that you can work with to make your end product better and also do it in much less time.
That is true. It is quite efficient. So I know you spoke about generative AI and also AI that we had before. What do you think is the most surprising shift that you've witnessed in the AI technology that we are more exposed to now?
So with generative AI, the shift is in just using Gen AI technology in pretty much everything, right? There's a lot of new legal tools that use Gen AI, but at the same time, Gen AI is also used in healthcare, either for disease prediction, for treatments, and for summarization of, say, patient conditions, right? And the same thing in finance. You can use generative AI to summarize a whole lot of data and then provide a recommendation, right? Trading systems, for example, a lot of it depends on current events, current news, current market prices, and AI can really synthesize a lot of that information and make predictions predictions on how one would trade.
Okay, that's awesome.
Now, there's a lot of key use cases everywhere. And, if you want to talk about more sophisticated AI, right, there is something called AI agents that can be, you kind of think of AI agents, as people, right? And they use generative AI to communicate with each other and then work together to find a solution, right? So I can give you an example. When you go shopping on after Thanksgiving, right? You sort of want to find the best price for something you want to buy, but you also want to find the fastest route to get to a store where you can buy. So AI can predict it for you. And if you want to buy 10 items, it can predict where you should go to get them and also the most efficient path that you can drive to get there. Like assuming it's all in different stores.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I was not aware. I might utilize that in the future. I do notice that a lot of stores collect large amount of data. They want you to sign up, and do like the membership stuff. And I was thinking, well, what are they going to use this information for? But yeah, pretty cool. Okay, so my next question is, before transitioning into law, you were deeply involved in high frequency trading systems. How do you see AI reshaping the speed and complexity of financial markets? And where do you think law can help to hinder that evolution?
So I don't think AI would reshape the complexity and speed of the legal markets because legal markets were automated long before generative AI came about, right? So automation already existed for years and years and years. What generative AI can do is make the data more accessible and also give you the summary of the data, right? AI is also really fantastic at finding different patterns, right? So if there are certain patterns in the market that would make you buy or sell a security, AI is fantastic at finding those.
Have you witnessed more corporations or individuals utilizing AI to?
Yes. Right. A lot of companies are using AI internally, right? And that's the AI that they have developed in-house. So you may not actually see that AI is being used, except for, market prediction and analytics and all that stuff, right? But at the same time, you have companies that are using third-party vendors to buy their AI system, right? And you may have seen those, and those come in the form of chatbots or something that ChatGPT-like that's being used by the company, right? Where you as a user are actually talking to a chatbot, but often because the chatbot is so good, you may not realize that it's not a person.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. On some of the websites, it will say available 24 hours, and then you start typing and it says someone's responding like almost instantaneously. So I figured it must be a bot.
That also existed for a while, right? But the difference is before when you ask the question, you can only ask a limited number of questions, right? Before it say, well, you have to speak to a representative. Because you're using generative AI on the back end, it does more than do a keyword search. It actually analyzes your question before creating an answer. So the diversity of questions that it can process and also the answers it can give you are just becoming immense. So that's one really good use of technology, and you can really use it anywhere. Banks use it, right, for customer service. Hospitals can use it. Some law firms use it to some extent. Yeah, I mean, the use cases are really endless.
Okay, I see. My next question would be, as a co-chair of the AI practice at Haynes and Boone, what do you think is the most misunderstood legal challenge when it comes to advising clients on AI and machine learning?
The legal challenge, I think, changes with each administration. The previous administration, they had Biden's AI executive order, right? And that on a high level essentially told different government agencies how to regulate AI or come up with ways for regulating AI, right? So with this administration, that got repealed. Essentially what that means is now that different states would be regulating AI on a state level. Now, think if you are a company that practices in most states and you're trying to come up with a product, right? Which law do you follow? And the different states which have different legislation for regulating AI. So how do you, as a company implementing AI or buying an AI from a third-party vendor, navigate this and try to prevent yourself from, stepping your food into an unintentional lawsuit? So that's a huge challenge. challenge right now. It has to do with a lot of AI governance, whether you're creating a product or buying a product from a third party. But this is an incredibly hot space now, right? Because there's a lot of states that are trying to legislate. And at the same time, a lot of those legislations are just different.
Yeah, state by state, it varies. I had an additional question with that. I know it varies state by state, and there are protections and limitations on AI technology in different areas. Are you worried that maybe we won't have as much control over it in the future as it continues to develop? Because now I know there are some things that are limited, but what about when the autonomous learning of these machines start to teach themselves the things that we're currently programming them for?
It's an interesting question, right? Because AI traditionally, it's learning on training data, right? And training data is nothing but previous examples, right? So in theory, AI can't really learn something that it hasn't seen before and has not been trained on it. At the same time, with the different agents that I was talking about earlier, if they're collaborating with each other, there's quite a possibility that they may come up with something new, right? But I think that is still a question for the future. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that in a few years.
What is one common misconception you wish that people would stop believing about AI?
Probably that it would replace our jobs. I don't think that's the case. I think it has potential to have us complete projects faster, but at the same time, AI still needs prompts or inputs, right, that humans can provide because we know what needs to get done. AI is just another tool to do it. It can expedite the amount of time that we spend on doing something, but I do not think it will replace us.
So it's more like an assistant. It's not going to just be
Yes.
overnight.
Yes, it's definitely a tool that can make us do work faster, especially if you, like when I mentioned this before, AI is great at looking for patterns. So if you are in a life science space, right, and you're looking for, different drugs that you can use to fight diseases, right, it can find potential drug candidates a lot quicker than humans can. So it can reduce the research time from, decades to years or even faster. Yeah, but at the same time, we still need the criteria to figure out which drugs may or may not work. And at this point, AI can't really do that.
Okay, good. Okay. Now I feel a little bit more relieved as a consumer of this product. So thank you. When launching AI-driven products, what's the one legal pitfall you see companies consistently overlook? And how can the companies overcome or avoid those pitfalls?
Okay, this is like a fantastic question. It depends whether a company is implementing their own product or using a third-party vendor to do it. If it's something that the company is using internally, they have to figure out how to get all this training data so they can train their AI. And they have to figure out how do they get all the different use cases because it's not the volume of the training data, it's much more of a diversity of the training data. If you're looking for at an external vendor, a third-party vendor, and you're buying an AI system from them, the calculus is completely different because all of a sudden you don't want that same vendor using your prompts into their AI system, right, to train their product, then sell it to their competitor. That's one calculus that you have to take into account. Yeah, another one is where is their training data coming from? Is it copyrighted by somebody else? Because as a consumer or as somebody who's buying the system, you don't really know. That is something that you need to watch out for and at least take into account before you'll be using the system. If you start thinking about it, right, on a state level, if you ran afoul of the legislation, the states can come after you regardless whether you're a third-party provider or you're actually the user of the AI system. So there's a lot of legal questions that you need to take into account before actually start using them.
So as of right now, there may not be any protections in place for the person utilizing compared to the person that produced.
There's always protections in place. It's just what your exposure is going to be different.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. You have worked with companies navigating AI's ethical dilemmas in cybersecurity and data privacy. What are the most pressing ethical questions you believe the legal community hasn't fully tackled yet?
The biggest one is the hallucinations, right? This is where, you ask AI to do something and it comes up with a, answer that looks real, but it's really not. It created it. So I don't know if you heard, there was this case a while ago, Meta versus Avianca, where an attorney decided to do legal research using Gen AI, and it came up with a number of court cases that looked real. The citations looked real. It's just the cases did not exist, right? So the attorney got sanctioned because the other side picked up on very quickly that those cases are fake, and he had to explain to the judge that he used generative AI for legal research and he created fake case law. It's just that he didn't know that it could do that. So this was summer 2023. Fast forward a year and a half, the attorneys are still falling into this trap. A couple of weeks ago, there was another firm that cited fake cases to a judge unintentionally because they were using generative AI for legal research. And for whatever reason, it's just an issue that's not going away. So that's probably at least for the legal industry, because it's a huge reputational loss in using AI. But for whatever reason, people keep on falling for it over and over and over again. So as an attorney, it makes me, very nervous when I'm using the different, AI systems that I will unintentionally fall into, one of these traps.
Understood. I'm glad you brought that up because I was mentioning this to someone else the other day that I noticed some generative AI now, once they prompt an answer, there's a button that pops up that says source, and then it takes you to maybe like another web page or a link that may be producing this information as well. So I'm wondering if because of this issue with people citing it and it being a hallucination, if they're now starting to try to source the material for real.
Right. So that's one way of reducing the risk, because I noticed that as well. But you also have to be sure that those sources are real, because there is nothing stopping a person, right, from putting up a fake website with fake information and have generative AI linking that as a potential source.
So I see it can still be problematic because the link may not even be real.
That's right. That's the whole thing of, AI is being trained on data. And if the data is not real, it can come up with an output that's not real. Or in worst cases, it may not know the answer, right? So it can create its own answer. It's just as a human user, you have to be very vigilant in trying to figure out if it's the right answer or the wrong answer.
That's true. Thank you. I think that's a very useful tip that I'm hopeful that now once this is produced, more people will look into that.
Yeah. So, attorneys are now by far the ones that can fall for this. I mean, you have judges that you use generative AI because it's really good at summarization. I think there is actually legislation in England instructing judges what they can and cannot use generative AI for. There is a few judges in US that have been using it as potential, test cases. You have experts that are using generative AI. It's being used by a lot of people. It's just, you always have to think about what the answer is and whether you can back it up and if it's valid.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. My final question, which I think is a pretty good one too, is as AI continues to permeate industries like healthcare, finance, and tech, what do you think are hidden opportunities for both legal innovation and technological innovation?
There is a lot of opportunities because the technology is evolving and it will create new ways for us to do work regardless. Like as an attorney, it's very easy to start using AI because it does make your work simpler. At the same time, there's also a risk of whether that end product is going to be correct. And the other point is for companies, it's all about regulation because you need to strike a balance about regulating AI where it's safe to use and people won't be harmed from it. But at the same time, if you over-regulate it, you're going to stifle the innovation. So, you need to strike a balance in the current climate. That balance, at least in US, is being done on a state level, which, it may not be necessarily wrong, but maybe the government is giving time for the technology to evolve, figuring out where the hot issues are, and then maybe regulating it later. But AI is here to stay. stay. So it'll be interesting what would happen in the next few years.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. What do you think the legal professionals should do to stay ahead of these changes, though, as AI continues to evolve?
So with legal professionals, I think by default, you're talking to people who are, for the most part, are risk averse, right? It's just the nature of the profession. At the same time, AI is here to stay, so we will have to embrace it. Some firms are doing it faster than others, but I think if you're looking down the road in a few years, AI would be just another tool in our toolbox so we can service the clients better.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Dina. This was very insightful. I learned a lot, and you taught me about some new technology that I have not heard about before. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Shenique. It's been wonderful talking to you.